gas, how do we now make it more profitable? How do we now move it from one place to the other? So that is where the transportation and a lot of codes come in. So we'll rely on Glenn to give this very good presentation. And please, if you have comments, just start your comment with a C. If you have question, start it with a Q. And continue to put it on the comment section if it's a question, especially because our team are there to pick those questions. And at the end of his presentation, I'm very sure Mr. Glenn is going to deal with that appropriately. So I want us to just relax and enjoy this presentation. So welcome to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Go back to the agenda, please. I think the next item is for me to introduce our keynote speaker. Our keynote speaker today is going to be Mr. Glenn Ubome. Glenn has close to 2 decades of work experience that cuts across finance, taxation, risk, compliance, and strategy. He has diverse experience in oil and gas, upstream, consulting, and banking. Glenn is a technical editor to one of the Society of Petroleum Engineers International's journal, specifically the Economics and Management Journal. And he has reviewed several papers on energy policy, petroleum fiscal system, risk and economic analysis, and project finance. He is a recipient of the prestigious Society of Petroleum Engineers Award for outstanding service as a technical editor of its Economics and Management Journal in New Orleans. That was in 2013. He has also presented papers at IAEE, International Association for Energy Economics, and he was an advisory board member of West African Power Industry Convention and African Utility and Clean Water Conference in 2014 and 2015. He chairs Nigerian Gas Association Study Group 3. This Group 3 is about the legal, regulatory, and policy, and has contributed to several industry discussions. Glenn is a fellow of both the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICANN, and Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, CITN. He holds a bachelor's degree in accounting, Master's of Science degree in energy studies with specialization in energy finance, and an LLM in petroleum taxation and finance. Thank you very much. Let us welcome Glenn Ubome.
Thank you very much, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much, members of SPE, Port Harcourt branch. I think it's an honor for me to be making this presentation today. I was out of town. I told myself that no matter what happens, I have to make myself present for, for this session, and I had to come in today. Reason why the presentation slide came in late. So once again, I want to thank the chairman and members of SPE Port Harcourt branch for this opportunity. Thank you so much. Can you please, you want to project from there, or you want me to do it from here? I think you should.
If you can do it from your end, it will be fine.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen. You can make it slide. You just put it on slide mode. Okay, you.
Okay, so the topic is Nigerian Gas Transportation Network Code, operation and implications on domestic gas market. By the way, I understand that I have just 20 minutes, which means I really have to run very, very fast. So I will start with, I will turn the topic upside down. I will start with, I'll start by looking at the domestic gas market, then thereafter go into the details of the network code. I always like showing this this graph. You know, it's a key data, you know, on domestic and on gas in Nigeria. If you look at the production profile in Nigeria between 2001 and 2018, you realize that we have grown our gas volumes by 965 BCF from 2001 to 2018, which represents about 50% growth. Out of that, NAG constitutes 83%, which is very significant. So then gas export, on the other hand, grew by 895 BCF, which is about 93% of total production growth during the same year. So leaving just 7% for the domestic market. And now, if you look at the flare gas volumes, you realize that it has dropped by about 67% over the years. If you see the graph, it's moving down, which is very good. Coupled with the recent flare gas commercialization regulation that the government issued, we hope that this will go down further. So, but if you look at the other, line, you see that gas reinjected, is moving in the opposite direction. It's moving in the opposite direction. There are good reasons for gas reinjection, for secondary recovery of oil and for some other use. However, I think, to my mind, if you see the rate of growth, I think is rather high. So having said that, domestic market share of total gas utilized, if you look at between 2001 and 2018, as a share of total production, of total gas utilized, domestic gas utilization has not moved. It may have moved in absolute terms, but in percentage terms, it has not moved. It's still at somewhere around 15%. Meanwhile, export volumes have moved up from 32 to 46%. So what does that tell you? That shows that the focus really has been, on the export market. So, and of course, this is understandable because of the numerous constraints that we have locally. And one of that constraint is, of course, infrastructure. Pipeline is part of that infrastructure. And I think the government recognized this, by making it a focal point in the national gas policy. The national gas policy says the infrastructure blueprint was the heart of the gas master plan. It mapped out the planned infrastructure needed, including connecting the gas networks in the western and eastern parts of the country, building transport pipelines, and so on and so forth. The government, has also come up with other initiatives, such as the domestic gas supply obligation, where volumes are allocated to upstream players for supply into the domestic market. Again, if you look at the gas policy, it says that on network code, it says that there will be open access for all pipelines and other essential midstream infrastructure. So, and essentially the objective is to have open access to to the network, that's to the transportation network. It goes further to say that access to all midstream facilities, not just the transportation facility, not just the pipeline, but all midstream facilities will be on an open access basis, and a network code to manage access will be developed by the industry with oversight by the Petroleum Regulatory Authority. So it is in the light of this that government came up with the network code. So government came up with, which is a very laudable initiative. So why is this so? Let me just give a bit of a background. Because of the nature of pipeline, because of the characteristics, inherent characteristics of a pipeline, it is one of which is that is a natural monopoly. In other words, it is better for few entities to build or to construct this pipeline, for other users to access than for everybody to begin to build pipeline. Otherwise, pipelines who have pipelines crisscrossing the entire length and breadth of the country. And also looking at it from a cost perspective, it is better to have few players in that space. And of course, it's a regulated business. So the government has come up with the network code, which is essentially a common set of standard conditions governing access arrangement into the network. That's essentially what it is, a contractual framework between the shippers, the gas shippers, and the operator, which in this case is the NGC. The gas policy says that, the country is going to adopt a modular approach to the adoption of the network code. In other words, we'll take it gradually. We'll take it gradually. So if you look at the network code, you will observe that what it covers, the network that it covers, the pipelines that it covers are government-owned, NGC-owned pipelines. In fact, not all at the moment. So the question then is, the network code, the way it is at the moment, is it really, open or third-party access? Is it on open or third-party access basis? If you consider the fact that what the policy says is somehow different from but again, we understand that the policy says that the country is going to adopt a modular approach. So we'll look at this. We'll look at this question, the question that I just posed. We'll look at it at the end of the discussion, at the end of the presentation. So what does it seek to achieve? Any company wanting to trade gas and transport this gas through the system must be a party to the network code. And as I said earlier, it forms a contractual basis, for the relationship between the operator, NGC, and the shippers. So, and it also gives all parties equal access to available transportation services. That is essentially what it is. So let us now look at some of the key provisions in the network code. I must say that it's all about system capacity, allocation of system capacity, access to system capacity. So for every licensee or for every shipper that is licensed to transport gas through the pipeline, through the system as defined in the network code, it is important, or it is absolutely necessary that that shipper gets a license. And upon the grant of the license, that shipper will have a registered capacity, will allocated a registered capacity, which is essentially system capacity which the user is registered as holding at that particular point in time. So apart from the registered capacity, we also have the available capacity. Available capacity in this case is registered capacity plus any capacity transfer. And that is one of the good things that the network code has introduced. I mean, you can now trade capacity, you cannot transfer capacity. So if a licensee or if a shipper has registered capacity and that shipper wants incremental more capacity, that shipper can get that from another shipper. That's from the transferor shipper to the transferee shipper. So in that case, the available capacity will be more than the registered capacity. So in terms of daily quantity input, shipper daily quantity input, that's the quantity of gas treated as delivered by the shipper to the system on that day at a system entry point. That is from the entry point. That is, that has to do with delivery shipper. That is delivery shipper. So, but for off-taking shipper, what they hold is shipper's daily quantity output, which is the daily quantity. That's the quantity of gas treated as of taken by the shipper at the system exit point. I need to be very fast here, so I'm going to skip some things. So for the use of system, for the use of the network, there are certain charges. There are certain charges. That are payable. These are essentially three. The first one, we have the capacity charges, which is like a fixed charge. It is paid in respect of registered system capacity at system points on any day based on daily. It is a fixed charge. Then we also have the commodity charge, which is a variable charge. Is paid based on the delivery, the quantity of gas delivered or taken from the system. Then we also have overrun charges, which is applicable at any system point. The quantity of gas delivered to or taken from the system by the shipper and any day exceeds the shipper's available system capacity. Let me just throw more light on that. If on a particular gas, if on a particular day, the SDQI, that's the system's daily quantity input, that's the quantity inflowed into the system, exceeds the shipper's available system capacity. It has exceeded. That means that shipper has exceeded his available system capacity. So there is a charge, associated with that, which is the overrun charge. So that is what is represented on the right-hand side of the presentation. And the charge, the charge is actually 130% of the sum of commodity charge and capacity charge. It is to discourage shippers who may want to deliver more gas than the actual capacity that they are holding. So I said earlier on that one of the good things that the network code has introduced is is capacity transfer. So somebody holding a registered capacity can transfer that capacity to another shipper. So the person transferring the capacity is the transferor shipper, while the recipient is the transferee shipper. There are some procedures. I won't bother going into all that details. But the point that is worth noting here is that irrespective of the capacity transfer, the capacity charges associated with the transferred capacity remains with the transferor shipper. It remains with the shipper. And again, in terms of termination, in the event that the transferor shipper ceases to be a shipper, that transferred capacity, will be nullified. The transferor, the shipper that transferred that capacity to the transferee shipper, in the event for whatever reason that the shipper ceases to be a shipper during the transfer period, the capacity transfer will be terminated. The loss of transfer system capacity. So by implication, if it is terminated, means that the transferred capacity to the transferee will lose it. Then the available system capacity, the transfer system available system capacity will be adjusted accordingly. So that is that on that. So in terms of planning, there are procedures, put in place by the operator or by the network code to ensure that there is reliability, that the network is operated safely and reliably. And one of that is rolling annual estimate. Every shipper is required to submit, for the next 12 months, their rolling annual estimates. It is a written estimate of the quantity of gas in, million scoff to be delivered or taken from the system by the shipper. Then, apart from the rolling annual estimates, the weekly estimates are also required. Then we now go to daily nomination. A shipper nominating quantity of gas for delivery to and or of offtake from the system on the day shall make nomination in respect of that gas flow not earlier than 7 business days. So there is a time frame around this. Otherwise, the operator can reject, can reject such nomination. And in terms of nomination quantity requirements, the shippers may make nomination for quantities in which the rate and times at which it expects to deliver gas to and obtain gas from each system point, taking into cognizance the shrinkage factor. So the shrinkage factor has to be taken into consideration. The cumulative imbalance, we need not deal with this because we are going to look at it much later. So I talked about nomination timing not earlier than 7 business days prior to the gas flow day, not later than 15 hours on the day preceding the gas flow day. So these are the rules surrounding nomination. If these rules are not adhered to, if these guidelines are not adhered to, the operator has the right to reject that nomination, and it will be deemed, the nomination for that particular system point, for that gas flow day will be deemed to be 0. So let's move very fast. We go to, okay, so I want us to quickly familiarize ourselves with these, with some of these terms, because we'll be dealing with them as we progress. So in terms of daily imbalance, at the end of every day, the daily imbalance for every each shipper will be established. And how is that done? Is to compare the shipper's daily quantity input against the output from that system. So if there is ideally the input should be equal to the output, but it's never the case. Really, it's never the case. Due to obvious reasons. So let me quickly say here that in determining the daily imbalance, there's what we call the trade nomination. Trade nomination is like bilateral arrangement, between shippers or between shipper and connected facility operator. So in that case, that will also be factored into the imbalance, but it doesn't really affect it because it appears on both sides, because trade nominations must correspond, the figures must correspond. And if they must correspond, it therefore means that what you have on the side of the system, shipper's daily quantity input, will be equal in terms of the trade nomination, equal to what we have in the system daily quantity output. So if there is a difference between the two, of course, there is imbalance, daily imbalance. So beyond the daily imbalance, the code has also mandated that cumulative imbalance will also be calculated. And cumulative imbalance is simply the summation of the daily imbalances. That's the imbalance in the previous day plus the imbalance today. We give cumulative imbalance. Then cumulative imbalance charge. That is the charge payable by or to a shipper in respect of a cumulative imbalance excess. We'll come to all this. Then scheduling charges. These are charges payable by a shipper in respect of differences between or to from the day which is nominated. So at the beginning of every day, I did mean that shippers will be required to nominate their quantities. If at the expiration of that nomination, the nomination does not change, and at the end of the day, the quantity supplied is different from the nominated quantity, there is a scheduling charge that is applicable. We'll also deal with that. Then we also have a balancing charging. Balancing is the sum of scheduling charge and the cumulative imbalance, the summation of these two. So I think we should just move so that so daily quantities and imbalance. What are the components of daily quantities by either the delivery shipper or the off-taking shipper? Is essentially three components. One will have the code quantity of taking, that's on the side of the off-taker. Okay, let me start with the delivery off-taker. So the delivery is broken down into three. There are essentially three components, for every delivery, not necessarily all. So the first one is code quantity delivery. That's delivery made under the network code. Delivery made under the network code. Then we also have delivery made outside the network code. These are legacy contracts before the network code. I know there are calls in some quarters that there shouldn't be legacy code, that all contracts should be transmitted. Should be governed under the network code. That's the second one. Then the third one, operational balance allocation. But let me quickly say that operational balance allocation is not necessary. It's not necessary if there is no imbalance in the system. I don't know if you can see this formula very clearly, EPDQ, the one in bold. So if you look at that formula very well, only the first two components might actually, the third one may not actually apply if there is no imbalance in the system. We have the code quantity delivered and the not code quantity delivered. Again, it is not in all cases that you may even have not code quantity delivered. So that is that on that. So if you look at in terms of input quantities and the output quantities, without the operational balance allocation, the input quantities should at every point in time be equal to the output quantities. But again, as I said earlier on, it is not always the case because of shrinkage, because of so many factors. So, and that is where the role of the operator comes in. The operator has a responsibility to balance both demand and supply. So in the event that the input quantity is not equal to the output quantity, or the operator is of the view that they might not balance, not necessarily now, but on a particular gas flow day. So the operator it is incumbent on the operator to do certain, to carry out certain steps in order to make sure that the system is balanced. So essentially, where the quantities of gas expected into the system in the gas flow day are more or less, than the expected offtake quantity, there is going to be an imbalance. So where the pressure in the system has changed or is likely to change, or the operator is of the view that is likely to change, there will likely be imbalance, and therefore it is the responsibility of the operator to carry out certain steps to ensure that the system is balanced. And what are these steps? One of it is this invitation for balancing assistance to any shipper or connected facility operator. The second one is to invoke system entry or exit curtailment. Then the third one is, the operator can actually, do whatever is necessary for the purpose of operational balancing. Let us quickly look at one of these of those which is indication for balancing assistance to any shipper. What it simply means is that let's assume that the quantity of gas expected into the system is less than the quantity of gas that will be taken from the system. So there is supply shortfall. So the operator can then call upon a shipper to bridge that gap. It again, from the other, it can also happen at the other end. That's from the demand side. If the quantity of gas coming into the system is likely to be more or less than what is to be offtaken at the exit point, the operator can also call for assistance from any of the shipper. So, what is the implication of that? It has so many implications. So, but first of all, it has to be established at the end of the day whether the shipper that was called upon by the operator, to intervene, to balance the system, to help balance the system, actually did that. So, and how you know is that, I mean, of course, the gas flows are metered. So you then compare the original shipper quantity. If the shipper was not called upon to intervene, to assist in balancing the system, what would have been the shipper's original shipper quantity? So that will be compared with the shipper's daily quantity for that gas flow day. So if there is difference, then that means that the shipper has assisted in addressing the operational balancing challenge. So, and where the shipper does assist or did assist, it has implication for over delivery threshold and under delivery threshold. Before I move forward, let me quickly explain what that is. The network code has given a kind of a tolerance limit, if I can put it that, tolerance limit as to the quantity of gas that can be offtaken or delivered through the distance beyond the available system capacity of the shipper. And that is pegged at 20% of the available system capacity. 20% of the available system capacity. So if a shipper is called upon to balance the system, it has implication for that. And of course, there are penalties for over delivery, for over delivery and for under delivery, there are penalties. So if a shipper is called upon to intervene or to balance the system, should that shipper be penalized? Of course, no. And it is not, the network code has not done that. So where the shipper did so assist, the shippers over delivery threshold or the shippers under delivery threshold established shall be subject to an adjustment. It will be adjusted to take, to accommodate that, that extra volumes. So, and such adjustment may be applied, for the consecutive, for the next for the next number of days. So, the offer threshold adjustment on the gas flow date to which the accepted shipper offer relates shall be, of course, this is the adjustment that is required. Remember, I said that before it, let's assume that the shipper is not required to balance the system. What the shipper would have delivered to the system or of taken from the system would have been the original shipper quantity. However, now we have shipper daily quantity, whether input or output, which is different from that original shipper quantity. So the adjustment is going to be the difference between the shipper daily quantity, whether input or output, and the original shipper quantity. That's the adjustment. That's what will be used to adjust the over delivery threshold as defined by the code. So let me go back. So now back to this. I showed this slide before. So if you look at the formula again, if you look at the entry point daily quantity delivered, that's the first formula from the entry point. I said, it is made up of, the delivery is made up of three different components. That's the code quantity delivered. and the operational balance allocation. So why I brought this slide back is because of what I mean, because of the last slide. So in the event that the shipper intervenes or helps in balancing the system, that is when you will see this third component, this OBAA, that's the operational balancing. And this figure, it can either be negative or positive, depending on the role that the shipper played at that particular point in time. So, and we'll see that. So, the operational balancing adjustment with regard to the delivery shipper, right? The operational balancing allocation will be a negative quantity where the OBA inventory is to be decreased. That's balance due to the shipper. In other words, the shipper is injecting less gas into the system that hello. Hello.
We can hear you, Glenn.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Sorry for the break in the break. Perfect. So let me bring up the slide again.
Okay.
Let me bring it up. Okay, so can you see the slide?
I think it's coming up.
Okay, we can see it now.
Okay, sorry for.
We can see it now.
Oh, okay. Okay, so okay, yes. So a positive quantity. So let me go back. So entry point daily quantity delivered. So you have a negative figure for OBAA, that's operational balance allocation. If the shipper is injecting less gas that the shipper should have under normal circumstances, then a positive quantity when the inventory is to be decreased. In other words, at that point, is injecting more gas into the system. So that equation, the OBA in that equation, the allocation is going to be positive. So on the other side, I mean, the opposite is the case for the exit point. That's for the off-taking shipper. A positive quantity where the OBA inventory is to be decreased, that is, gas quantity is due to the operator, right? Then a negative quantity where the inventory is to be increased. I can throw more light on this. So going back to daily imbalance. So going back to daily imbalance, when the quantity, the input quantity, the shipper's daily quantity input is less than, adjusted for the shrinkage factor, is less than the shipper's daily quantity output. That's what was taken out of the system, what was taken, from the system. What you have is a negative figure. But when the SDQI is more than the SDQ, which is system daily quantity output, what you have is a positive figure. It's like an oversupply, injecting more gas than is taken out from the system. So I earlier defined cumulative imbalance as imbalance for the previous day and the imbalance for today. So that is the cumulative imbalance. So this we are going to, okay, so when you talk of balancing charges, so balancing charges, balancing charges, where you have balancing charges is as a result, will arise as a result of cumulative imbalance excess. And how do you determine that cumulative imbalance excess? So cumulative imbalance excess is equal to the cumulative imbalance minus over delivery threshold. Let me explain this. Sometimes it can be very confusing. So cumulative imbalance, as I said, is the accumulated, is the sum of all the imbalances, from the previous days to that particular point in time. And I said that the code has established a maximum over delivery threshold. Is like a tolerance limit. So should the cumulative imbalance for a shipper at every, at every system point, should it exceed the over delivery threshold, which is 20% of the available system capacity, it will give rise to cumulative imbalance excess. It will give rise to cumulative imbalance excess. So in the same vein, if you flip it, where shipper's cumulative imbalance in respect of the gas flow day is negative and exceeds the under delivery threshold, cumulative balance will be equal to cumulative imbalance minus under delivery threshold. Now, what is the implication? So the gas representing the cumulative imbalance excess shall be deemed to have been sold or purchased based on the system buy and sell price, which shall be set by the DPR from time to time. So in other words, there is penalty. There will be penalty for that excess over the over delivery threshold or the under delivery threshold. And the system price at this point, the system price is going to be set by DPR, but there is a provisional clause in the network code that says that the buy price shall be, I think, 110% of the GSA. Then the sell price shall be 90 or 95% of the aggregate GSA. So that is the provision of the distance. So let's go back again to scheduling chart, where on a day the quantity of gas delivered or taken from the system by delivery of taking shipper exceed or is lower than the shipper's nominated quantity beyond the allowable tolerance limit of 5%. Shipper shall pay scheduling charge, which is 5% of the system sell price. So in other words, if the nominated quantity is more than is less than the actual quantity, is less than or more than the actual quantity, there is penalty for that. So there is incentive for every shipper to always adhere to the nominated quantity. And the good thing is that the system, the code has also made provision for tolerance limit. And the tolerance limit is, I think, 105%. 105 is 5%, both ways, 5% both ways. So that is the tolerance limit. Beyond that tolerance limit, the shipper will be penalized for delivery or for delivering or taking gas from the system in a quantity that is less than the nominated quantity. So they would go to daily quantities and imbalances, measurement, reconciliation. And perhaps due to testing, verification and calibration of measuring equipment, as meters, it is discovered that the quantity delivered, the determined quantity, the quantity delivered, or the quantity of taken from the system is different from the actual quantity as determined by the calibrated meter. Then we'll have a reconciliation quantity. Example, assuming the determined quantity at the initial stage was 1 million scope delivered into the system. However, due to one reason or the other, it is discovered that the actual quantity exceeds or is lower than the original determined quantity. There will be reconciliation quantity, which is the difference between the previously determined quantity and the determined quantity upon the calibration of the meter. And that has so many implications as well. Of course, you also agree with me that that reconciliation quantity will either represent a gain or a loss. For a delivery shipper, if the determined quantity is more than the previously determined quantity, then it is a gain. That means he has actually, the shipper has actually injected more gas into the system than was recorded for him. Again, if you take it the other way around, if it's less than, that means is a loss. It's a gas loss reconciliation quantity. And again, that has implication. So the first one is the threshold. Remember, I said that the code has made provision for 20% tolerance level, 20% of available system capacity as the maximum threshold. So assuming that upon the determination of the new quantity, there is a likelihood that what's it called? The 20%, that is the tolerance level, may be breached. That's the 20%, that's the threshold, the over delivery threshold and under delivery threshold may be breached. And therefore, that will have to be adjusted also. That will have to be adjusted. So again, even the cumulative imbalance will have to be adjusted. So you then compare. So let us look at, how it works. So in terms of threshold adjustment, the shippers over delivery threshold in the case of a gas reconciliation quantity. So again, if it's a gain, that means the cumulative imbalance would have increased. The cumulative imbalance would have increased, assuming there was an imbalance. The cumulative imbalance would have increased. And since if there is an increase in cumulative imbalance, if you find the difference between cumulative imbalance and the over delivery threshold, that will determine whether there is an excess that will be purchased by the operator at the system buy price or not. So that is the implication. It also has implication for, the shipper, it also has implication for under recovery threshold. Again, it has implication for commodity charge as well. If you remember, when I started, I said there are three cost components associated with the transportation of gas. I made mention of capacity charge. I made mention of commodity charge. I made mention of overrun charge. And I said that the capacity charge is a fixed charge, is a fixed charge. However, the commodity charge is a function of the quantity of gas that passes through or that is delivered to or taken from the system. And to that extent, since there is, as a result of the calibration of meter or the determination of the new quantity, since there is a reconciliation quantity, it therefore means that it will also have implication on commodity charge. Again, the implication will depend whether it's a gain or a loss. If it's a gain on the side of the delivery shipper, it means that the shipper will pay to the operator the product of the reconciliation quantity and the commodity charge. That's the implication. However, if it is lower, if that figure is lower than the originally determined quantity, so the shipper has a credit, there's a payment has to be made by the operator to the shipper, in this case in the form of credit note. So that's in the case where the reconciliation quantity arises at the system point where the determined quantity is less than the previously determined quantity. I'm rushing so that I can, I know I've exceeded in this thing. So to conclude, so the question I asked is the network code, what has it changed? What has changed? What has changed? Because if you look at pre-network code and now, given the fact that the network, the system that are covered under the network code are owned by government, right? To some extent, there was open access. Therefore, what has changed? Has anything really significant changed? Well, it depends on where you are looking at it, from. And again, remember that I quoted, some of the key principles of the gas policy, which says that all systems, whether upstream or whether offshore, onshore, will be subject to third-party access. So the question then is, if you really want to enhance gas liquidity, if you really want to make sure that there's enough liquidity in the system, yes, it is true that for government-owned pipeline, the network code is required. However, I think we need, as a country, we need to go beyond that, because before gas even flows into the government-owned system, there are other assets, upstream, which if open up, this view is not, I think it depends on where you stand. It depends on where you stand. But my view is that if these assets are open or this infrastructure are open up, there's likely to be more liquidity, gas liquidity in the system. Has much really changed? I think a few things have changed. And as I said earlier on, before now, there was nothing like capacity transfer. So by introducing capacity transfer, in this in the network code, that will kind of boost gas liquidity in some ways. So, and again, it is important that the access arrangement is codified, which is what the network code has done. So to that extent, I think, yes, there's significant, there's improvement, but there's still scope for, improvement in terms of the coverage, of the network code. So at this point, I want to hand over back to the chairman. If you have any question, I'm ready to take. I hope I'm not too fast. I was just very mindful of the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Glenn. Please, can we please give Glenn a good round of applause for those of us that will open our distance. Thanks very much for this insightful presentation. It's quite eye-opening for me personally. You took us through all these within this short period of time. It's really well packed. You spoke generally about dumb gas utilization, and the fact that utilization has remained at 15% of total gas production, even though the export gas has been increasing in both number and percentage. Hence, the national gas policy is coined in such a way as to encourage improved gas utilization. And it was in the light of this that the government came up with the network code to facilitate and encourage investment in gas infrastructure and hence encourage dumb gas utilization. You spoke about system capacity, which is based on registered capacity of each infrastructure owner and shippers, each shipper quantities, daily quantities input and outputs of each shipper. You took us through what is meant by transport charges. These are various charges that there are, and there are penalty charges for shippers that takes more output than their input. You also define daily nomination quantities, trade nomination, and also about the fact of that trade nomination is between suppliers and takers. You spoke about daily quantities and the imbalances in the system and how imbalances are handled via the operational balancing agreements. Essentially, you made us to understand that network code is a platform that was put in place to assist in regulating the commercial relationship between all the parties in domestic gas utilization, from the gas producers, infrastructure owners, shippers, and the final users. The use of balancing charges to regulate the cumulative imbalances in the system helps to maintain sanity in the system. At the end of the day, you give us 3 key changes from the past. And you mentioned about the open access or third-party access, capacity transfer, codification of access arrangement. Thank you very much. This is the little that I've been able to gather together, and I'm sure all of us have enjoyed this presentation very much. We have some questions that have been asked by people. So I will take those questions that were asked on the chat. Then maybe if there is time after, we can take direct questions from a few of our people online. Frank Tagbo asked about, he said, do you think that Nigeria is ready for domestic utilization, considering the safety connotation in its use? I will ask 2 questions, then I will allow you to answer. Then I will ask another 2 questions. The second question was from section chair. What do you think is the main blocking point of the gas transportation code in terms of implementation? So like, what are the key challenges that you think are going to be blocking the execution of this network code? Glenn.
Okay, thank you very much. The first question is on, says, is Nigeria ready for dump gas utilization in view of, I think, safety concerns? I think that's the question. So whether Nigeria is ready
Yes,
for.
that's the first question.
Okay, so I think this question is within the context of recent events in Nigeria, where we've of recent we've heard of various incidents where various this in where gas stations, that's LPG especially, where there are serious issues of safety. But let me let me quickly say that when it comes to, when you talk about gas utilization, there are so many uses. And the minister, said last year that 2020 was the year of gas, and that is because Nigeria being, with the kind of resources that we have, nothing is stopping us from using our huge gas resources to spur industrialization. So, and there are so many uses. I mean, you look at fertilizer. You look at so many uses. So I think where the real issue is, where the issue of safety is in the area of LPG. And I think the DPR has come up with various regulations to tighten that, that aspect, stricter standards, stricter regulation, and stricter, regulation, to ensure that the safety measures are implemented. But by and large, I think I really don't think safety is really much of an issue when it comes to gas utilization. Yes, there are safety issues when it comes to LPG because of substandard materials that people use. But if DPR can enhance its oversight its function, its regulatory function by ensuring that by ensuring that the whoever is going into that space is takes quality, takes safety as a priority, then I do not think the issue of safety will be much of a concern. But and that represents an insignificant part of total dump gas utilization. Today, about 63% of dump gas utilization goes into the power sector. And of course, as you all know, we generate about maybe between 4 to 5,000 megawatts hours of megawatts of this thing of electricity, and there's so much scope. Around South Africa, that's just 40 million, that has 40 million population, has about 40 something thousand megawatt capacity of installed capacity. So nothing stops us from having 45, even 100,000 megawatt. We have the resources to power, and I don't think in that. When it comes to electricity generation, the issue of safety is an issue. So that is that on that. Then the second question is about the main blocking point for the implementation of the network code. Okay, so the network code as it is today, I think it requires some we need to dot some I's and cross some T's. We need to review the network code because there are some gray areas which I know a lot of people have advocating that the DPR should look into. That is one that has to be looked into. Then secondly, there is this big elephant in the room about gas pricing. Gas price is a very sensitive issue. I really don't know how much that will impact on the implementation of the network code, because I mean, somebody has to produce gas in order to flow into into the system. So that for me is also an issue that we need to address beyond just the implementation of the network code. I mean, the network code is not I mean, cannot be treated in isolation. It has to be treated alongside other issues in the distance. And when I started, I said there are lots, I mean, a number of constraints in the industry. One is infrastructure, which the network code is trying to address. Government is also trying to address that. Look at the AKK pipeline. You know, a number of initiatives. However, we still have some issues. Key among those issues is gas pricing. I know it's not something that is easy. It also has political implication for the government. So, so pricing is an issue. I think pricing will be is an issue that may impact on the network code.
Thank you very much. I think we have one more question, then we will go into the question is about how will this policy impact on interconnectivity between dump gas and export gas? And the last one is, how do you think we can engage participation of the host communities in the implementation of this gas policy?
Okay, so the first one, dump gas and export gas. That's a key issue. I mean, that's one of the key issues that we are. I mean, that we are being confronted with as a nation. So, but again, to the extent that there are issues that are left unresolved, I think gas producers will still prefer the export market. And again, there is another key issue which people have been advocating that government should look into, and that is the pricing of gas in Naira. So while the cost of is in dollar. So it's an issue, especially because of the devaluation, the unstable nature of the domestic currency. So when you put all these issues together, the export market is still more attractive to producers. Again, if you consider the fact that the credit worthiness of domestic, of end users, the value chain, credit worthiness of the value of the gas value chain, the electricity sector, which takes 63%, is an issue. So we need to, address all these issues to make dump gas utilization. To increase dump gas utilization. Then the second question, can you take the second question again, please?
Okay. The second question is about how do you think we can engage participation of the host communities in the implementation of the gas policy?
Oh, okay. So I think what the operators or what the producers and government can do is to engage the host communities more. I know of some of the arrangement between host communities and some producers, upstream players, which is the GMOU. Between this, and I think there's the petroleum industry bill has also, I think there's a clause in the petroleum industry bill which which recognizes this. So if we can engage the community, I mean, let them be stakeholders. Let them, I mean, let this the host community should see themselves as stakeholders. Then it's only then that we can make significant progress in terms of community relations. I mean, in terms of I mean, the way we engage with the communities. So they need to, you know, they need to see the resources as a source of shared prosperity. The communities need to see, that. And I think that, again, there's a percentage that the PIB has earmarked for host communities. And I hope that by the time the PIB is passed, it is implemented to the letter such that the host communities see, you know, the benefit of, you know, some of those funds. And once that is done, I think, you know, there'll be good working relationship between the host communities and producers. And, you know, I'm not sure there'll be interruption with, or much interruption with the flow of gas from the field, from the wellhead to, you know, to the pipeline.
Thank you very much, Glenn, for that. That will be the end of the Q&A. But I have noticed that our section director, Mr. Debo Fagbami, is online, and I will call on him to give a short remark on behalf of the SP103.
Yeah, thank you very much, Saeed Onosho. I hope you all can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. Because I'm actually in traffic. I mean, I'm not driving. I'm being driven, so I'm only hooked up to my car audio system. Yeah. Fantastic presentation and very, very insightful from Glenn. Kudos to you, and kudos to this particular study team. I love the format and the way and manner you have packaged this session. When I saw the invite just a little after noon today, I couldn't resist the temptation of registering and making sure I was hooked up to this particular event. The network code is something that has actually sparked a lot of interest in the industry, particularly in the gas sector. And I mean, I was involved in the very first public awareness session that DPR had at a hotel some 3-4 years ago now, and the eventual launch of it at the commencement of the NIPS conference last year in Abuja. And I think Glenn has done tremendous justice to the subject, and you know, I hope participants have been able to gain one or two things, you know, from this topic. The network code is not so new, you know, globally. I mean, it's something that is being utilized actively in the UK and the United Kingdom. It might be new to us in Nigeria, but I think DPR has, you know, they've taken the required necessary step, you know, by commencing the implementation of the code. You know, I'm a player in the gas industry, and even as I speak, you know, I'm on the verge of signing a contract with the commercial department of the Nigerian Gas Company in a gas project that we are involved. My company is involved in, and of course, it's a network code agreement that you know, we as a gas processor and a gas midstream operator has to put pen on paper before we can have access to the NGC network. So this is it's something that I think, you know, I want to encourage Glenn, if he have his time, to release the material he has presented today for our members in SPE, you know, to go and take over and digest as reading material and as future reference documentation, you know, for those of us that might want to play in the sector. So kudos to Glenn, and thank you very much to all the people that have been able to log on to this event. As at the last count, I know the section chairman was was taking an inventory of the number of participants or attendees. I know we had 60 at some point. This is almost unprecedented in this study group series that started last year, I believe it was. So thanks a lot. And of course, Said, you did a masterful job of moderating, the way Amara, you captured the successful highlights. One would think that you're also a network code expert as well. Well done to you, and thanks for breaking it down, into understandable chunks, for our members. So on this note, I think I'll just I'll pause, and allow the program to continue flowing. Thanks a lot. Thanks to everybody that attended. I noticed the president of NGA was also in attendance. I'm not sure if she's still on, but if she is, Audrey, we appreciate your presence here for honoring SPE, with your presence, and we want to continue, the relationship between SPE and the Nigerian Gas Association, in some of these industry initiatives. Thank you very much for being in attendance. If she's not still here, I mean, anybody that, from NGA that is here, can please pass on these words to her. Thank you very much. Saeed, over to you.
Thank you very much, Section Director and former Council Chairman. Thank you. I think we are close to the end of the program now, but I will quickly call on our program team if there are any announcement of any upcoming programs. Section Chairman.
Is Dorcas there? I think she has some announcement, and of course, is Dorcas, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so you can do membership and then the upcoming programs together. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining. Want to use this time to encourage all of us. I have a feeling some persons here might not be SP members. So we have a link that you can just click on, fill in your details, and everything about your membership will be taken care of for you, or you'll be guided through it to make the work much easier for you. So that's for our membership drive, and we look forward to a lot of you. Please, Simeon, can you drop the link on the chat box? So it's just one click away. Just click that link and fill the details, and we will take care of the rest. That's for our membership drive. And then also for our upcoming programs, we have a women development program tomorrow, hosted by the WIN arm of SP Section 103, Women in Energy. They're hosting for 2 schools this weekend, RSU and IMT. RSU will be physical from 2 p.m. at the Petroleum Engineering Department. We have very seasoned speakers waiting and eager to spread the news. And the theme is on the making of the feminine CEO. Yes, it says feminine, but I also know that males are welcome to be part of this program, because it's going to be generally knowledge on how to become a CEO or how to maintain being a CEO, to survive despite the challenges and all that comes up with being a CEO. So men are welcome to be part of it. If you can't come physically, you can click on the link for tomorrow, Friday, to be part of the section during when the speakers are speaking. Then on Saturday, it's going to be completely virtually by 10 a.m. The same link, just click on it and be part of it. And we have a raffle draw for our attendees, but of course you have to pre-register, so we have your data at our back end. So click on the link, register, and get ready to join us tomorrow. That's our event. We have upcoming events so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dorcas. I'm sure there will be a gift for early birds tomorrow. Yeah, so I think this brings us this brings us to the end of the program today. Thank you very much to everybody that has been with us since 5:30. I will now request for anybody that is moved by spirit to give us a closing prayer.
In Jesus' name.
Amen,
In Jesus'
my
name.
guy. Go ahead.
Amen.
Father, we thank you for a successful deliberation. We thank you for a well-scripted presentation that have huge impact on the industry. And thank you for making us trainable and teachable and hearing from the guest speaker. Father, can you continue to bless him and order his steps now and always in Jesus' name. We commit SP Section 102 programs into your hands as we continue our body. Make every crooked way straight in the name of Jesus. Let this body succeed as we return all glory and oil to you. Take all the glory and adoration. All this we pray as through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Simeon,
Amen.
are you ready for pictures? I think people can just
Please let's open our camera for a quick take by our secretariat.
So just put on your video, 15 seconds, we are done, just to take pictures quickly.
The chair, you're not smiling at all. No, you are smiling.
You want my smile is a big one, big smile. Especially Glenn has done so much justice to this topic. And we are still bringing Glenn back. I think he has to come for proper MTM, not study group. I'm jealous for this study group. They have to come for proper MTM of the section.
I wish that he has spoken in pictures. The slides are too worded.
Yeah. Simeon, are you done?
Some persons are still coming up.
Okay.
Sorry,
Thank you, everybody.
unfortunately, I'm not dressed up, so good evening all.
Yeah, don't worry, we'll bring you back for FTM. For sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Said Olosho, for leading this team. Very, very well done. I'm very sure other study groups, you have set a big standard for them now. They have to catch up.
Thank you, Said.
You're welcome.
Great work.
Yeah,
great work.
Well
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yes, we are good to go.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Stay behind.
Please stay fit, stay safe. COVID-19 is very real.
Yes,
But here, you're not wearing mask, even though you are alone.
I mean, I have to wear
Chairman is
mask
still
alone.
Yes, now. So tell the rest of us.
Incredible.
You're not wearing mask, even though you are alone.
Oh my God.
From himself.
How am I going to eat?
Chairman, are you still on quarantine?
Okay. Drink?
Chairman, you are still on
We should have seen
quarantine.
the standard. We had the mask even when you are alone.
Oh my God.
Nobody can see chairman now. He's on quarantine.
Exceed the standard.
Quarantine, but still looking smooth.
Wifeys don't like data or drop number for data. And
Are we dropping number for data?
Only
I don't find There's one fine
young
dude.
professionals, people below 35 years.
There's one fine dude.
Thank you. I'm just 29. Oh, hippie.
Okay, Dorcas, no
Who is
problem.
this
You
fine
carry
dude on my
it over.
screen?
Carry it over since they don't want.
Can I give him a wife?
My own is here. Dorcas, don't try me this evening. No. Don't try it.
No.
We still have program tomorrow.
It's true.
Chairman,
Sorry, one of them. Sorry. My
Chairman, don't put your mouth. I'm a YP,
my
please.
YP.
Dorcas, what do you think? That guy is handsome.
He's not a YP, but he's my girl. Just do it, Jack.
He's where?
Everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you, Oga Said.
You're welcome. Take care. Well done.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Good night, too.
Good night, Emmanuel.
Alpha.
Dorcas.
I didn't
I never
say
see
Good night,
that.
Kuba.
Dorcas.
all of them. I don't wake up now. All of it, so therefore not announce you. Hey,
Good night.
Robo.
It was a nice one, though.
So
Okay.
Dorcas, let's see what we can do for tomorrow. I will chat you on WhatsApp.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You are welcome.
Simeon, please don't off yet, though. As in, don't leave the end the meeting yet. I need to collect some numbers, please. Oh.
No, I don't need to leave it.
If not, I will just collect. I'll just collect that your own one. I give you back. You will then like film. I'll withdraw them back.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Hey, so you don't know the magic I can do with computer? Take me play.
Okay, now.
Oh yeah, sorry, no verse. Don't off. Don't end, please. I'm almost done.
No problem, no problem.
Christine, say something now. Let me check out.
Okay, I was even muted. Good evening. I said I came very late.
Finally, you are here. Christine,
So, not like I
when we finished.
Yeah, I came in very late. So,
I thought you would say anything. I was expecting you to talk since no way, like getting to talk and all that. I think most of the senior
you know the
members
funny
left.
thing, I was actually muted. If I just checked,
Okay,
and
okay.
then anyway,
Oh, so
you
you
come and give me
I hope
some.
you've not been talking since.
I'm not knowing
Yeah.
that they are not here. Harvey.
You just think now everybody's ignoring you, yeah?
Ah,
You know what's up.
it's well.
It's actually
It's
nice.
well.
Sadly, I didn't start the bigger part of the whole stuff. So towards the engine, so I was able to join you. You get